Hello all, in this video we are going to discuss about the early Jainism. In the last session we have discussed about this early Buddhism and today we can discuss about this early Jainism. So the first point is that the Jaina doctrine that is much older than Buddhism. So what we can see, the Buddhist doctrine that comes around 6th century BC. But even before that itself, the early Jainist doctrines are available. We'll discuss about it later. And the word Jaina, that means the follower of Jina. That means victor. Okay, so Jina meaning victor or who attained moksha. So simply the term Jina meaning the liberation from the cycle of rebirth or those who received the moksha. And the follower of Jina is called as the Jaina. And there is another important word regarding Jainism that is called as Tirthankara. Basically there are 24 Tirthankaras and the 24th Tirthankara was this Mahavira or later called as the Jaina or Jina. So what we can see, before Mahavira itself, there are about 23 Tirthankaras. That's why our first point, the Jaina doctrine that is much older than the Buddhism. So the word Tirthankara, that is another word for Jina and that means ford builder or one who builds fords that help people across the ocean of suffering. And there is one important concept in Jainism that is the conception of time. And it is said that according to Jainism, it is an endless sequence of half cycles. So in Jainism, what we can see that is endless sequence of half cycles comprising of both progressive and regressive timing nature and that further divided into 6 stages known as kalas. So in Jainism, the time period is referred as the endless sequence of half cycles. One is Usarpinis, that is the progressive, and Avasarpinis, that is regressive. And further that is divided into 6 kalas. And what we can see, in each half cycle of time, there comes one Tirthankara, thus we have 24 Tirthankaras. For an example, during the Avasarpini time, we can see the Rishabhdeva, that is the first Tirthankara. So Rishabhdeva as the first Tirthankara, that was during this Avasarpini time. And the word Jaina or Mahavira, according to one belief, that possesses Avadhijnana. And this Avadhijnana meaning superhuman cognition or psychic power. So that's the word meaning of this Jaina. So this is just an introduction regarding Jainism. Next we can discuss about Mahavira or Jaina. And Mahavira, he born in 599 BC at Kundagrama, a city near Vaishali, that is the capital of Videha. So Vaishali was the capital of Videha. Also it was the capital of one important Mahajanabada. Go and identify. We have already discussed about 16 Mahajanapadas and their importance. Please watch that video and identify the importance of Vaishali and their Mahajanapada. And the father of Mahavira was Siddhartha and he was the chief of the Natri clan. So what we can see, Mahavira, he belonged to this Natri clan and his mother was Trishala. So Mahavira born to both Siddhartha and Trishala. And Trishala, his mother, was the sister of the Videha king. So Mahavira also belongs to the Kshatriya clan. And according to Ajaranga Sutra of Jainism, that describes Vardhamana's parents, that is both Siddhartha and Trishala, they were the followers of Jaina Parshanatha. So Parshanatha was the 23rd Tirthankara. So it is believed that the parents of Mahavira, they were the followers of this Parshanatha. And according to Shvetambara tradition, basically have this understanding, around 300 BC, what we can see, this Jainism that divided into two, one is this Shvetambara and another one is this Digambara sect. And what we can see according to this Shvetambara tradition, Mahavira, he married Yashoda and had a daughter named Priyadarshana. But according to Digambara tradition, it is said that Mahavira never got married. So this is just an introduction regarding Mahavira. More informations about this Mahavira, according to both the traditions, that is both Shvetambaras and Digambaras, what we can see, Jina, he is supposed to have attained Kevalajnana. Kevalajnana meaning the infinite knowledge or this moksha or the enlightenment in Jainism, that is Kevalajnana. And he attained this Kevalajnana outside the town of Jrimbika Grama, that is on the banks of Rijupalika river. So Jaina, he received his Kevalajnana on the banks of Rijupalika river, that was in the field of a householder named Samaga. So Jaina received his Kevalajnana in the lands of Samaka. And the chief disciples of Jaina is called as Ganadharas. So the term Ganadharas meaning the chief disciples of Jainism or Jina, and they were Indrabudhi Gautama, a Brahmin, and his two brothers. So what we can see, the major disciples of this Jaina were the Brahmins. One of the most important disciples was Indrabudhi Gautama. He was a Brahmin, and later his two brothers. Soon that expanded to number 11. So the major disciples were the Brahmins people. And the both the traditions, they also agree that Jaina he died at Pava. Pava otherwise called as Pavapuri or Bhava. And that is near to Patna. And it was at his age 72. And he became Siddha. Here the word Siddha meaning the fully liberated and forever free from embodiment. In Buddhism correspondingly we have discussed one word. What was that word? Please comment your answer. And it is believed that Jaina he passed away in 527 BC. So it was in 527 BC and that marks the beginning of the Veera Nirvana era. So Veera Nirvana era in the history of ancient India signifies the death of Jaina. And we have already discussed that by 300 BC, what we can see, this Jainist Sangha that is going to divide into two sects. One is the Digambara and the one is Shvedambara. Shvedambara people are otherwise called as the white clad and Digambara people were the sky clad. They were basically naked people. And Shvedambara people wearing the white dresses. And it was mainly in the southern part of India and it was in northern part of India. Next we are going to discuss about this Jaina philosophy. And as per this Jaina's philosophy, everything in the world that exists in three aspects. One is as substance, that is called as Dravya. Then it has quality called as Guna, and that is a mode called as Paryaya. So everything that exists has three aspects in this world. One is its substance, then its quality and its mode of existence. And the most important Chinese philosophy is that the doctrine of Anegandavada, that is the theory of manifold nature of reality. So the reality is not a single and unified one. It is different for different people. That is simply referred as the Anegandavada. There are different opinions regarding one reality. Correspondingly, we have the second doctrine called as the doctrine of Syadavada, that is the doctrine of maybe. According to this doctrine of Syadavada, it is said that no judgment is true without qualification. So qualification is most important regarding the truth. And every judgment we make is relative to the particular aspect of the object and we are judging and the point of view from which we judge it. So every people judge one condition or one situation based on their point of view. So there might be different point of view. So that's why different judging. So that is called as the doctrine of maybe. So what we can see, both this doctrine of Anegandavada and this Satyavada is highly related. And regarding this Atman or soul, the Jainist philosophy says as the Jiva, that is the soul, that is not eternal and should be to accepted as partial truth from certain point of view. So it is said that they believed in the concept called as soul in certain point of view, but that is not eternal as per this Jaina philosophy. And these Jivas or this Atma or soul that transmigrate due to karma. So when we discussed about this Buddhism, we told that the Buddhism does not believe in soul, but they believe in transmigration. At the same time, what we can see in Jainism, the Jainism believed in soul and also in the transmigration, along with the theory called karma. So according to these karma practices, there happens the transmigration of the soul. The karma particles are attracted towards the jiva due to association with the passions, desire and hatred. So in one aspect what we can see, there will be passion, desire and hatred among people, and that eventually will affect their karma, and that along with help for the transmigration of jiva from one to another. So what we can see, a jiva that is associated with the karma particles is considered to be jiva in bondage. So karma and jiva have some connection. So the karma, if the karma is good, the jiva can be good. But if the karma is bad, there will be some kind of bondage or bandha. Now the most important part is how we can liberate from this bondage. How we can liberate this Atman from this karma. That is the Jaina's teachings. Regarding the liberation of the soul from the bondage, that we can happen through the transformation of consciousness and behavior. Then the ignorance will disappear and the cycle of samsara is broken. Then finally the moksha is going to be attained. So we have already mentioned about this Atma or this Jiva. Now we have to liberate this Jiva. That is called as Nirjara. That is the wearing out or the liberation from the bondage through transformation of consciousness and behavior. When we transform through consciousness and behavior, there happens the disappearance of ignorance and finally there is going to disappear from this cycle of samsara and finally we will attain the moksha, the final salvation. And we have already mentioned about these Tirthankaras. All these Tirthankaras, they are liberated and they are arhat and they are who already acquired the capability of teaching the doctrine. In the 13th stage of Kevala Jnana, so there are different stages for this Kevala Jnana, that is the final enlightenment in Jainism. So among this what we can see, in the 13th stage what we can see, there mentioned about this arhat stage. So arhat is one of the most important concept regarding this Jainist philosophy and the 13th stage of this Kevala Jnana that deals with this arhat and they are the capable for teaching their doctrine. They are called as the Tirthankara. And the 14th stage is the final one, that is moksha, the final abode of liberated soul. And there is a word called as Siddhaloka. Siddhaloka meaning, we have already mentioned about this word Siddha, the final liberated people. And they have their own word called as Siddhaloka. And in which what we can see the Tirthankaras who received their moksha. So this is about this Jainist philosophy. Now we are going to understand more about Jainism through this Jaina discipline. So in this what we can see, there are three important germs introduced by this Jaina philosophy. That is the Jainist Triratna concept. They are the three germs. One should have right faith and right knowledge and finally there should be right conduct. This will help for transformation of consciousness and finally it is going to liberate from you. So what we can see, the three Ratnas or the three gems such as the right faith or otherwise called as Samyak Darshana, right knowledge meaning Samyak Jnana and right conduct meaning Samyak Charitra. So what we can see, by these three one can transform his consciousness and finally he can achieve the liberating stage. And there are 5 great vows. They are called as Mahavrata, Pancha Mahavrata, and that is for monks and nuns. So in Jainism also what we can see, the Jainist Sangha, and there is 5 great vows or the 5 Mahavratas that has to be followed by these monks and nuns. Most importantly, the concept of Ahimsa, that is non-injury or non-violence. Second one, that is Satya, that is seeking the truth, or Sundrita, not to utter any false. We have to speak only truth. Then Asteya, that is not to steal any property. The fourth one is Brahmacharya, that is celibate life, and this Brahmacharya is added by Mahavira. And the rest 4, including this Aparigraha, that is added by Parshanath, 23rd Tirthankara. And Aparigraha, the 5th one, that is the non-possession. There is no right to possess much and over property. And all these vows are for inner purification of one, especially these monks and nuns here. So what we can see, there are 3 Ratnas and 5 great vows. They are called as Mahavratas. And this Mahavrata is for monks and nuns. And according to Jainism, there are 4 main forms of existence, such as there exists God, that is Deva, only next to Mahavira. That's the important point. Then humans, Manushya, hell being or Naragi, and animals and plants. They are Tiryancha. So there are 4 main forms of existence according to this Jainist philosophy. And the most important feature of this Jainist philosophy is that their importance to Ahimsa, that is non-violence. They were highly strict in this concept called as Ahimsa. So what we can see, it is said that injuring others, that draws on negative emotions and passions, and it is detrimental to achievement of salvation. So if you are going to hurt anybody, that is going to against your salvation. And giving importance to Ahimsa, that is non-violence and non-injury, the most important dietary that was followed by this Jainist was this strict vegetarianism. So they were highly vegetarian people. It is said that even the meat of naturally dead animals can be eaten because the dead flesh is considered as breeding ground for nigodas or tiny organisms, or otherwise called as these decomposers. So what we can see, according to this Jainism, they gave much importance to this concept called as Ahimsa, and they tried to strictly follow this as part of they were highly vegetarian. we can consider more theoretical understanding of this Jainist Ahimsa concept. The Jainism also adds this point: the monks and nuns, meaning the Jainist Sangha, they must not dig the earth. So they cannot practice agriculture, that lets they kill the earth bodies. They must avoid bathing, swimming or walking in the rain. Why? Lest they kill the water bodies. So I already said that earth bodies and water bodies. They must not light or extinguish flames to avoid harming fire bodies. So there are fire bodies also. They must not fan themselves to avoid harming the air bodies. They must try not to walk on greenery or not touch living plants to avoid harming the vegetable bodies. So simply what we can see, the Jainist Ahimsa concept was highly connected with their severe form of asceticism, and they were forbidden from agriculture and doing anything that harms the natural bodies. So hope you now got an understanding regarding the Chinese extremism. So that's why what we can see, many people were not happy with this Jainist ideology comparing with the Buddhism because of this Jainist extremism. At the same time, in Buddhism we have discussed about this Madhyamika philosophy, a middle path. Another important point regarding this Jainism is that both Digambaras and Shvedambaras, they agree that Mahavira and his early disciples, they had moved around naked. So they were naked. And the Digambaras follow that tradition strictly. So what we can see, we have already mentioned that the Digambaras are naked people and they follow this method by accepting the practice of Mahavira and his early disciples. And according to this Digambara tradition, what we can see, the only things that a monk that can carry are a small broom, otherwise called as Rajoharana, for brushing insects away before sitting down, and a water gourd, Kamandalu, for toilet hygiene. So there only two things can be carried by a Digambara monk according to this Digambara tradition. At the same time, the Shvedambaras, they wear white robes. We have already discussed that. And the basic discipline for the laity consists of the Anuvrata tradition. We have already discussed about this Pancha Mahavrata for this Jainist monks and nuns. Similarly, there are Anuvratas, that is for this laity. And that is the modified forms of these Mahavratas of monks and nuns. And the first three were common. Which were they? Ahimsa, Asteya, and Satya. These three were common to the laity also. And there adds chastity and limiting one's fun for as the 4 and 5. And we have already mentioned about this Jainist extremism. That's why they cannot do many occupations, especially they can't do hunting and animal husbandry, governing or otherwise called as asi, and farming. Why? All this is going to destruct or destroy the natural bodies. And they preferred only one occupation, that is the trade, and that caused less injury only. So in Jainism, what we can see, the trade is most important occupation, and that's why what we can see, many Vaishya community or the trade carrying people, they promoted this Jainism than the rest people. Hope the idea is clear. Next and the last, we are going to understand about this Jainist Sangha. When you study about this Jainist Sangha, have a comparative understanding with the Buddhist Sangha. And like Buddhism, the people of all varnas and social backgrounds could enter the Sangha. And we have one sutra called as Uttaradhyayana Sutra that narrates the story of a monk named Harikeshiya. So Harikeshiya, an important monk in the Jainism, he came from the Swapaka family, and this Swapaka family meaning a Chandala family, an untouchable group. So in which we have one important Chinese monk named as Harikeshiya. So that's an example for this. All varnas and social background people can enter into Jainist Sangha. We have already mentioned that in Jainist Sangha we can see strong Brahmin participation. We had many people such as Acharyas, such as Bhadrabahu, Siddhasena, Divagara, Pujapada, Haribhadra and Jinasena. And most of them were from this region called as Magadha. So in Magadha we have many Brahmin representation in Jainist Sangha. And one common thing with respect to Buddhist Sangha, the Jain text, they also present women as a danger to the celibacy of monks. And Jainism that established a monastic order for them. And according to Kalpa Sutra of Jainism, when Mahavira died, there were 36,000 nuns and more than 3 lakh lay women in Jainism. It's showing the importance given by this Jainism to the women community. Another important point is that an element of inequality that existed in Buddhist Sangha. We have already mentioned that the importance given to monks than the nuns in Buddhist Sangha. But the Jainist Sangha that provided respect to the nuns first. And there were two important traditions as we know, Digambaras and Shvedambaras, and woman Tirthangara in Digambara. So according to Digambara tradition, it says that woman, she has to reborn as a man before she can attain salvation. So in Digambara what we can see, there were less importance to women or nuns. At the same time, according to Shvedambara tradition, that acknowledges the possibility of attaining Jaina put to women also. That's why Malli, the 19th Tirthangara, that is believed as a woman according to this Shvedambara tradition. So there are different opinions among this Digambara and Shvedambara community in different aspects. Similarly, we have mentioned about this difference between the Buddhist and Jainist ideologies in this lecture itself. For more details, go and watch the early Buddhism chapter. So that's all for now. Thank you for watching.